Howdy, everybody. Kevin Hopp coming to you live with Hop on Calls powered by Kixie. Big shout out to our sponsor, Kixie, your all-in-one business telephony solution. We're going to be using the Power Dialer feature today, but you can simply, easily build multi-channel campaigns inside of Kixie where you can use text messaging. We can use triggers inside of HubSpot, inside of Salesforce. It's got deep integrations. If you haven't checked out Kixie, please go do so. I'm rocking my Thanksgiving shirt today because we're getting close to the holiday. We are going to have a show next week. Ryan Paris from Superhuman is going to join us and make some cold calls, changing things up a little bit this week. And the change up is just that we are going to be going over the golden rules of cold calling. As you guys all know, I'm a bit of an outbound calling geek, freak, all of the things in between. What that means is I have an entire set of rules that I use when I teach cold calling. I'm going to give you guys a free masterclass and what that looks like while simultaneously cold calling, going outbound, right? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do two things at once, and we're going to take theory, which you guys see a lot of on LinkedIn. You see a lot of theory. You see a lot of people saying, here's what you should do. Here's what you should do. Here's the way you should do this. And we're going to put it into practice. This is the ultimate blend of theory and practice. Hop on Calls the show. If you missed a show, if you're dropping off at any point, if you're watching the recording, go to Hop on Calls. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, this is a podcast as well. Lots of really quick, fun, factual nuggets in the podcasts themselves. So let's do two things. I'm going to take a sip of water here. Is anybody watching? Give me a shout out in the comments section if you see me. Shout out. Want to make sure that we have a little bit of audience participation. I want to absolutely answer questions here if anybody has questions about about the knowledge that we're going to go over here, right? I'm going to do two things at once. I'm going to hit go. And I'm going to be calling today, just so everyone knows, while we're going over the golden rules of cold calling here, slowly but surely, I'm going to be calling for my client called Uncommon Giving. Shout out to Sean Hurd. Thanks for stopping in, my guy. I'm going to be calling for a company called Uncommon Giving. They have a platform that B2B companies can use to make giving to nonprofits a lot easier for their staff. So I'm going to be calling people that are in the decision-making hierarchy of human resources, okay? So that's the persona I'm calling. I'm calling with a structured pitch and a script. I'm going to go ahead and hit go on that, and we're going to start talking a little bit about the golden rules of cold calling. Shout out to Corey Jordan. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Samantha, howdy. Glad everyone's here. Okay, so in my earbud right here, I have it connected to Kixie. And we are going to jump in the queue. Boom. So Kixie is calling multiple numbers at once for me. I'm going to adjust my volume settings over here. That's good. Okay. Awesome. So, golden rules of cold calling. Let's talk a little bit about this. The first one is your prospect is not interested yet. Okay, yet is really important there. The first thing that people might see and feel when they hear my prospect is not interested is they might get a little bit upset about that and say, well, they're not interested. Why would I even call them in the first place? Well, it turns out that if every person out there had the solution to all their problems, sales wouldn't exist. Voila, right? What is sales, people? Sales is change. Sales is getting people to change things. Getting people to go from doing one thing to doing another. That is sales. That's why salespeople make their money. If you haven't figured that out, I hope that realization kind of comes over you. Now, the next thing that I always tell the SDRs that I train, and I have 4 clients right now where I'm building SDR teams with them. And the first thing we talk about when we have a lead list that we look at is I say, hey guys, first things first, nobody on this list is interested. Nobody on the list is interested. Now that we know that, what should we do now? Okay, so now if we know no one's interested, now when they tell me on the phone, yeah, I'm not interested, we are not, oh my God, you're not interested? That's incredible. That's not going to be our reaction. Our reaction instead is going to be, I understand you're not interested, and a lot of our best customers weren't interested when I first reached out to them. Not interested is a quick bump, and it's usually a really cheap objection. Now, what do I mean by a cheap objection? Cheap objection is something called the false negative, right? I'm going to write this down because it's a super important thing to realize, right? False negative. What is the false negative? It's what happens when we call lists of people who are not interested, which is basically every cold list, but it's a process that you go through. The false negative is the cheap objection that you get that you might take at face value as, oh, they just told me they're not interested in the first 7 seconds of the call. Therefore, I can never sell my solutions to this company. Wrong. The false negative indication of interest, okay? False negative means it's an incorrect feeling you're going to get from an interaction. The most common reasons that people say they're not interested and the most common reasons for a false negative is because people are busy. They're just busy, right? They're busy and they get someone in the ear and they go, I'm not interested. Take me off your list. Bye. They throw it down, right? We have to fight the false negative at all times. And by fighting the false negative, we're going to get into actual business conversations going back and forth. And that's what we want. Okay. That is what we want. We want to make sure that we can go back and forth with people and have a valuable conversation about business problems and valuable solutions, right? That's the goal. Changing a setting over here so we can try to get some conversations. I got to log the outcome. No one's picking up the call. Okay. 1 second. Doing a quick tech thing, making sure we can get conversations going over here. Okay, cool. That was a voicemail. It just hit my ear. Moving on. Okay, so now that we know that your prospects aren't interested, the goal of sales development is to have the conversation with somebody and get them to the point that they could show interest. Okay, the goal of the conversation is not to find out who's interested, because I can tell you before you even call, they're not interested. Okay, golden rule number 1 is if you understand they're not interested, that's a cheap objection, and we're not going to take it at face value. That's the first thing to realize. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Now, what's golden rule number 2 here? Conversations are king. To the point that I just made around not interested. The only way you're going to find out if someone is actually interested, actually potentially in the market, might have the business problems and the looking for valuable solutions, is to have the conversation. The conversation with somebody. So conversations are king is the idea that when you're going outbound, we're not just simply calling someone to say, hi, my name is Kevin. Are you looking to buy what I sell today? Goodbye. Right? If cold calling was seriously only about calling someone right away to see if they're ready to buy, then we could automate that. We don't need a rep. Why would we pay somebody, good money to get on the phone? Hey, this is Kevin with Uncommon. How you doing today? Oh, shoot. She dropped off. Hold on. Yeah, she dropped off there. I think we're going to double tap this lady, though. On 1 second. Texting. This is a streaming issue. Okay, let's double tap. You ready? Boop-a-doo. Click redial target in Kixie. Irene. Trying to reach Irene. And she didn't pick up. All right. Well, I thought we had an exciting little callback there. I did hear her say hello, and then she dropped off right away. That's going to happen that is going to happen. Okay, so conversations are king. This is the idea that when we are calling people, the goal is to have a straight up back and forth conversation. It's not to show up, pitch our product, hope they say they're ready, and leave, right? That is not how it works. Corey, great question. Corey, you can't hear the prospect side of the audio, unfortunately, on the live. There's some legal stipulations behind that. So the prospect audio is in my ear only. If you want to hear both sides of the conversation, we take the best moments from the live show, we put it into the podcast. Where's the podcast? Podcast right here. Hop on calls. So if you go to the podcast, you can hear both sides of the audio. We bleep things in the podcast. I don't know if that makes sense. Hey, this is Kevin. I was looking for Sergio. Sergio, how you doing? I can hear a lot of background noise. Yeah, Sergio, might not be a good time to chat, huh? Yeah, my name's Kevin. I'm with Uncommon. But hey, it sounds like I caught you at a bad time. I'll reach out another time. Whoa. So that guy, so this is a really little fun example, right? When you pop into a cold call and you can't even hear what they're saying, and there's so much background noise and like things going on, which this guy sounded like he was getting his house redone. Who knows? But when you can't hear what they're saying, a lot of reps, because they're so excited, they just got into the conversation. They're trying to have conversations, right? Trying to have conversations. They will pitch and they will move forward and be like, okay, so I can't really hear you, but so I'm calling with blah, blah, blah. And we did that. And the person on the line is just sitting there like this, like, they can't hear you if they can't. They only pick up the phone because they have this general curiosity of, this person could be giving me money, telling me something about my family. It could be the police. It could be, right? The reasons that people pick up the phone when they're not in a good situation to pick up the phone is this insatiable curiosity that humans have, right? And all of you listening out there that make cold calls, you know what I'm talking about. People pick up the phone when they're very busy, when they're literally like, I got 2 things of coffee over here. I got the dog. I got a little kid strapped to my back. I'm walking up a mountain in the snow. They will drop the dog and the coffee to pick up a cold call and say, hello, who is this? And you're like, oh my God, like, are you in a good place to talk? Like, why did you pick up the phone? I don't understand, right? They will do that because there is a deep seated, like, I argue it's like, this evolutionary thing in us to be so curious about who's calling us. Someone's calling on you. It's like, ooh, yeah, right? People love to answer questions, right? What's the thing that every 16-year-old girl does on Facebook and Instagram? AMA, ask me anything. AMA, everyone loves to answer questions. And a cold call is like a question. They want to answer it. They want to know, who is this? But they are not ready. They are not ready to have the actual conversation. All right, so let's move on here in my dials. Boom, boom. Sergio was not ready for a conversation. I'm cool with that. Conversations are king. Is our second golden rule of cold calling. Let's do another one here. Fat stacks in the circle backs. Now, if you followed me for any period of time, you have heard this golden rule of cold calling. Fat stacks in the circle backs is the idea that the hardest thing that we're doing is actually what I'm doing right now. The thing that a lot of the gurus and a lot of the influencers out there are very scared to do, which is make net new cold calls to ice cold prospects. That's as hard as it gets, people. And if you get good at this part of it, guess what? You get to follow up. Man, follow-ups are amazing. Hi, Tyler. Kevin here with Uncommon. How you doing today? I am doing great, but I know I caught you a bit out of the blue here. Do you have a second to have a cold conversation? Oh, I could totally send you an email. I actually have a meeting at 10:20, which is in 4 minutes. Is your meeting at that time too? Because we can get done what we need to get done in about 4 minutes. Oh, it was a 10:15 meeting. All right, Tyler. All right, I'll let you go. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Oh, bummer. All right, so Tyler was a live one, but he said he had to run to a meeting. So one of the things to keep notice of, and you can keep notice of this just simply by understanding when someone says that they're walking into a meeting, look at what time you're calling, right? For me right now, I'm sitting in San Diego, California. It's 10:16 a.m. 10:16. I don't know about you guys. I don't set a lot of meetings for 10:16, right? Even like on the 15 minutes is a very rare time to set a meeting. So as a way for me to kind of check and see if Tyler was actually walking into a meeting or if it was a cheap objection and I was just telling him, hey, this is going to be a brief conversation we're going to have. I said, hey, look, I got a meeting coming up too. I got to run, but it's at 10:20 because on the 10-minute increments is generally kind of when meetings start, but 10:20 would be weird too. I don't know. But Tyler still would not take the call, which is a bummer. So we will send him a follow-up email, which I can do with 2 clicks using a templated response. If you guys aren't doing templates for your follow-ups, then you should be doing it. I got to learn how to point to this. Here we go. Like this. Fat stacks and the circle backs. Okay. So as the dialer is ringing in my ear, the next thing that we want to really understand here is follow-ups are going to be one of the biggest areas that you get meetings from. Okay. Follow-ups are going to be huge for you. So here's what a cold calling campaign should look like, right? And I've replicated this time and time again with my clients. You can ask any of them, right? A cold calling campaign is going to look like this. Boom. Now, what does that mean? It means that over time, when we're doing net new calls, we're going to get some success. But over time, we're going to end up actually building follow-ups, right? So the amount of cold calling you're doing will go slightly down, but needs to stay constant. You're always going to be doing cold calling. But at some point, you log in, you have a cold list of, let's call it 200 people, but your follow-up list is like 55 people. And that's when you see the meetings actually start coming from follow-ups, right? Because you build this mountain of follow-ups. Now, who goes into a follow-up? This might be an interesting question that procedurally, if you're listening, watching this, you can take this to the bank and take this right to your daily practice. I put people like Tyler in a follow-up, right? Because I connected with him. I know that's his number. I'm pretty sure he still works where he works because he said he was busy walking into a meeting. Even if he doesn't work where he works, he's a busy guy, which means he's probably not, what are the common things you run into? Oh, I retired 5 years ago. I'm unemployed. I no longer work there, blah, 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 blah. So trying to, that was a voicemail. Shoot, skip. On the next one. Trying to get a hold of people on the phone is hard enough. So when you can identify that someone has this number and picks up and they have that you could reach them on that number, that is worth following up, right? So this follow-up list over time builds itself so that you don't have to do as much cold calling. And I know it's kind of rare that I'm not just saying like cold calling is the only way to do it. Like, look, cold calling is just simply putting net new attempts to connect with people that you don't know out there. That's what we're trying to do. You shouldn't be cold calling if you know everybody, right? You only cold call to get net new relationships, net new conversations, things coming in the door that weren't there before, period, end of sentence. That's what cold calling is for, okay? Over time, our follow-ups will stack up to the point that you get more meetings from your follow-up list than from your cold calling list. But here's like the sad truth about this for all you people out there thinking, well, all I got to do is get past the first month of cold calling and all I do is get my meetings from the follow-ups, right? No. If you stop cold calling, if this goes all the way down to 0 and you're not making cold calls, right? So here's cold calls and here's follow-ups, FU. You don't have a lot of them to start. If you stop cold calling, this is like 0 calls. Your follow-ups will tank, right? It's a funnel. Anyone out there with the background of marketing understands funnels, and a lot of sales folks do as well. But your cold calling process should be a funnel where you're constantly putting into the top of the funnel, constantly having conversations, but those conversations are netting into follow-ups, right? And the fact that you are having those cold conversations constantly means you're going to have constant follow-ups, and your follow-ups are higher value connections. The odd, like your conversion rate on a follow-up call versus a cold call should be significantly higher. And now I'm talking like 20 to 30% higher, right? Once you've heard my name, once you've heard my company, once we've had some sort of conversation back and forth, and I know who you are and that you pick up your phone, that conversion rate should go way up, as opposed to a cold call where I'm calling a list right now, where part of what I'm trying to do is just determine who picks up the phone at what number when, right? There's a data component to this, right? And thank God I have Kixie, which makes it so easy. The dialer is running over here. We are calling. I'm calling a chief people officer right now named Deirdre. Shout out to Deirdre, by the way. That's an interesting name. So, fat stacks in the circle backs, everybody. Remember to have a process, a documented process for how you do follow-ups. Do you have an interesting follow-up process? I want to hear about it in the comments. I'd love to hear about that. So, the next golden rule of cold calling here. Business problems and valuable solutions. Anyone that's worked with me in a coaching capacity has seen me do this. And probably a lot of you tuning into the live see me do this. Now, what I do this for is when reps are making cold calls, even when I'm making cold calls, I have to remember that the purpose of the call is not just to find someone who's going to buy my stuff today. The purpose of the call is not to throw up a pitch and have them go, yes, I want to buy. Yeah. The purpose of the call is to have conversations. Remember, conversations are king. About business problems and valuable solutions, right? So oftentimes when I'm coaching BDRs, they'll get off of the call, and I'll ask them, what did we find there? On Zoom, I'm like, hey, what did you find there? And if they can't name for me a business problem or a potential valuable solution that prospect is actually interested in based on what they said, then they shouldn't book the meeting, right? I think one of the most common mistakes you find reps making is they go to book the meeting. Coffee is for closers, close on every single call. Every single cold call, you're just trying to book a meeting. You shouldn't. You should not be booking a call if it doesn't make sense. If there's no business problem or valuable solution that you have found, okay? That is king. Business problems and valuable solutions. The other really important piece about business problems, valuable solutions to remember is it's not what you want to talk about, right? Before you make that call, right? Let's go through our golden rules. Number one, we know they're not interested. Number two, we know we're trying to have a conversation. Number three, we understand that the first conversation might not be where we book, so we can follow up with them. We should follow up with them. But number four, the business problem or the valuable solution should not be defined by you, the rep, okay? The rep is always going to have commission breath. What's commission breath? There's something in it for you. Oh, I thought that was a live connect. Shoot, that was not a live connect. All right, dialer's running over here. Because you have something that you want to get out of the call, you're going to want to say, well, if I ask a rep, I've asked reps before, like, why would you even try to book that meeting? That made no sense. Well, aren't we trying to book meetings, Kevin? Okay, we are, but cold calling gets a bad rap from people that just smile and dial unstrategically with no real outcome that they're coming to, and they're not having business level conversations. That's the way I say it. Business level conversations, right? Really good cold callers get really good at this business level conversation, being able to talk to somebody about the challenges that are going on in their business and align it with potential valuable solutions. Now, I say business problems and valuable solutions because either or is actually worth the conversation. Either or, right? Meaning it could be a business problem that they have that you identify through your talk track, or you can talk about what you do in the pitch part, right? In the part that you memorize and you talk about every time. And if you say what you do, you describe it to them in a business sense. Hey, we help people like this solve problems like this, and this is how it happens, and it provides a great experience. If the prospect comes back and says, yeah, I want to talk about that, that's good enough. Okay? That's good enough, right? I don't want you to go into a long diatribe. It's okay to get into it a little bit with that person and ask him about it. That's good enough. Business problem or a valuable solution. A lot of times, like getting a particularly a high level person, a C-level person at a company to admit that they have problems in their business, right? Like talk on a cold call with a SDR about problems in their business. It doesn't always happen, right? But sometimes they'll just simply hear, what you do, and they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you about that. And in that case, that's the reason for the meeting, right? You need to have a reason for the meeting. And the reason for the meeting can't be because I want to set a meeting. It needs to be tied to a business problem or a valuable solution. Hope these are helpful. Is anyone getting value out of the cold calls, the golden rules of cold calling here? I need some feedback here. The dialer is running. We're having a tough time today on the dialer. But it is running in my ear here, and we're just hitting a bunch of voicemails. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Okay. Sean, that's why scripts are a double-edged sword. Helps reps with no confidence stay on track, but can force a conversation to go in a natural direction, not go in a natural direction. Could not agree more, Sean. And that's why you bring up a really good point here that scripts, as I move to my next call, come on. Scripts are not meant to be they're not meant to be read directly. Sorry, there was something weird going on in my ear with the dialer. Come on. Okay. No, it's back ringing. That's good. Okay, so scripts are not meant to be read word for word. If you're reading the script word for word, to Sean's point, you get stuck. You get super stuck. So don't get stuck, right? Because your script should just be a handrail. Script. It's taking us from the moment that someone says hello to meeting booked. Your script is simply a handrail. When you're running up steps, which is a conversation going up and down and sideways, when you're doing that, you might need help sticking to a talk track, making sure that the conversation moves in a direction. I talk about this all the time, the idea that the difference between sales conversations and normal conversations, is sales conversations have an actual focused opinion that you're trying. That we have a talk track. I have something to accomplish. That's why salespeople have conversations, right? We need to stay on topic. And how we stay on topic is we have a script, which is a handrail as we walk up, right? You see the little stick guy here. And just like a young toddler or a teenager who's, got wobbly legs, when you're early cold calling, you stick to the script. You're going to hold on to the handrail. But the better you get at getting from point A, which is hello, to meeting booked, I don't want you listening. I don't want you reading the script. You should not be reading the script word for word past probably your first week on the job. Then you start to internalize the message. You internalize the goal of the call, and you're simply going out there and having business level conversations with people, right? Thank you, Sean. Fantastic point there. And your script should hint on uncovering a business problem or a valuable solution. All right, Corey Jordan with a question here. What's your opinion on VMs? If you're pro VM, what's an example of one you find yourself using frequently? Okay, my big take on VMs is they are a waste of time. Now, what do I mean by they're a waste of time? If you have a rep that is saying the same shtick on a VM again and again and again, you add up that time, like 30 of them in a day, 20 of them in a day, whatever it is. You add that time over a week, over a month, right? So I'm a sales development consultant. So I get paid to help people understand. Hold on, dialers in my ear. Some people's voicemails when they hit the thing are like really loud and intrusive, and it makes me like lose my train of thought. But most of them are fine. So sorry, everybody. Live show. I'm actually making cold calls right now. So I get paid to help organizations understand what's happening today and what's going to happen tomorrow. So if you take the activities that you're doing today and you net it all the way out in terms of time, right? This is like effort over time. You want to make sure that the activities that you are doing over time net into productive outcomes. Now, there are ways to do VMail or VMs, right? There are ways to do voicemail. And actually, Kixie has a great solution for this, right? You need to use a tool that allows you to do automated voicemail drop, okay? Voicemail drop, I am an advocate of using it in a very specific way. Now, what that means is don't use voicemail drop. In my opinion, don't use voicemail drop when you're in a call session and you're trying to call 300 people, okay? Use voicemail drop when you're in a session and it's a very, very small targeted list. Maybe it's your follow-up list. And what you want to say in that voicemail drop is, hey, I was hoping to have a quick conversation with you. I know we spoke the other day. This is Kevin from Kixie, by the way. Give me a call back when you get a chance. Bye. Boom. Sweet, short, to the point, and don't say your name first. That's another. I'm actually stealing that tip from John Barrows, okay? JB Sales, big fan of those guys. Sales Training House, James Buckley, my man. Go check out John Barrows Sales Training. He does a great job. But they talk about the idea of the right way to leave voicemails is to talk about the reason for the call and the voicemail, and then at the very end, say who you are. Big fan of that. So now think about this also, Corey, when you are calling, right? So when I have a voicemail, this is what it looks like on 50% of the people's phones. So like when Apple launched this feature, I said to myself, I was like, self, this is wild. I said to the people I was working with, I was like, guys, so now a voicemail is no longer like, a recording box. You have to go play. Oh, hey, yeah, Kevin, this is good. No, it's not like that anymore. Now a voicemail is basically like a text message, right? It's right there in their inbox. It's getting transcribed for them. Now I'm an Apple user and that's what Apple does. I'm sure Android does that to some extent, but the voice to text thing is making it so that you can communicate with people in more ways with text. Now, all that to say, I do not leave voicemails when I'm doing large cold calling campaigns. I also do not leave voicemails by voice. I use automated features. Kixie has an automated voicemail drop feature that you can actually put into a hyper targeted campaign. I was doing this earlier this week, by the way. Yesterday, I did a hyper targeted Kixie campaign where it was a cold call. If it didn't pick up, voicemail drop. Then it was followed up by a text message, which is actually the point that Matthew Herring brings up here, right? What about a text in lieu of a voicemail? I rarely listen to VMs, but will read every text. Now, this campaign that I was doing on Monday, I was going after a very small, like 25 CEOs that I know need my services. And I am connected with them on LinkedIn. So I felt comfortable. I felt like there was a connection there to leave a text message. With your organization, you got to do some Googling on texting. All right. Cold texting is a gray area, guys. It's a gray area. If you know the people, 100% text message people. Okay. If you know them. If you don't know them and you don't have previous consent, texting them absolutely cold, pretending like you know them, probably won't work out well. So do some research on your, ask your boss's boss about it. Are you cool if we use texting? Because tools like Kixie are fantastic for that. And Kixie, there's 100 different ways to use texting, not just cold outbound. So I'm just saying, as the cold outbound guy, be careful how you text message. But text messaging can be very, very effective because it will get read, right? Everybody reads their text messages. It's like a 98. But that's also why, the government has bigger rules around texting, because they know it's kind of like the last safe place. And the only people that really abuse that are politicians. Like, guys, everyone listening, everyone listening, watching, I know you got the political text, a ton of political texts, right? Like, I got a ton of them because we just had the election. And they text me I didn't authorize that. I didn't ask for a text message from whoever it is. So, anyways. Dialer is rolling here. Yeah, so Sean has a good point. There are a lot of people that get pissed off if you text. So for that reason, and if a business gets pissed off enough, they go into the whole, like, did we consent for this? You can get sued. Don't do it. Don't do it in mass. Do it one-on-one. Do it specifically, and it's a super effective tool. All right, what's our next golden rule of cold calling? Next golden rule of cold calling is be interested and interesting. Okay. I hope that as you guys are listening to these, like it's all sort of adding up to you that cold calling is not something you should ever think can be replaced by a bot. Cold calling done really well can't be replaced by any sort of automation or any sort of like one size fits all, just slam and go. And like, I want 7,000 people getting this from me today. That's not what cold calling is. That's not what it should be, right? If you're using technology and process, you should be getting into a lot of live conversations in a day, which is good. But also, there are so many things that are required of a good rep to be effective at their job that this is skill. There's a lot of skill that goes into this. So this is one of them that is really hard to teach people if they don't have a dynamic personality, right? So in general, let's talk about this, right? Like you guys see this above me. I went to UC Santa Barbara. I have a degree in psychology. So I'm a people person, all right? I tend to say one of the things I've said before is the people that make the best salespeople are the ones that were kids. Like when I was a kid, I was super opinionated and kind of argumentative. And your mom and dad will say things like, you're going to be a lawyer one day with that attitude, right? And then if you really didn't love school and love studying and love books and all that, then you became a salesperson. You can freaking crush it, right? I do pretty well, all right? I know a lot of people who make a lot of money in sales, right? And they're not lawyers. My whole point being is you have to be a dynamic, interesting person if you're going to have these really quality outbound conversations. So be interested and be interesting is about the idea that when I call you, if I'm giving you a cold call, I am genuinely interested in what you have going on in your business. And I'm interested in learning about what's going on. I'm not just calling to book a freaking demo. I'm not just calling to close a deal. I'm calling because I'm interested in what's going on in your business. And I'm going to catch your attention and you're actually going to lean into this because I'm an interesting person, right? Be interested and be interesting on the phone. That means using your pace, volume, tone, and energy to be very, very dynamic. You got to be different. You got to sound different. And if you're not sounding different, you sound like just everybody else, and you're wondering why your cold calling results aren't there, it's because you're not interesting. No one wants to build trust with a stranger they don't know that isn't interesting. Okay? Interested and interesting. Guys, we might set the world record for the most amount of VMs reached in a live. I'm going on 67 dials. I've had one live person connect. This is unbelievable. These are all cell phone numbers, by the way, guys. But look, I'm flying. The dialer's flying. 67 calls. A lot of you out there are making calls one by one, or you're calling 10 digits at a time. There's no way you would have gotten through these in this amount of time. That's why technology is so important. Technology and process. Okay. So be interested and be interesting on the phone. That is a fantastic way to separate yourself when you're cold calling. Because one of the biggest problems here is that if you outsource so I talk to people who outsource cold calling to places where the reps read a script, right? And they can only read the script and they're literally just asking, are you looking to buy? It's just like, hey, Carolina, how you doing today? Kevin here. Hi. I'm with a company called Uncommon Giving. Did I catch you with a second to have a quick conversation? Yeah. My name's Kevin. I'm with a company called Uncommon Giving. I know I'm a bit of an interruption here. Did I catch you with a second to have a conversation? Oh, okay. Not a good time to have a 3-minute conversation right now, I guess. All right. We'll reach out another day. Cheers. So I've resisted the urge I resisted the urge. I wanted to just push forward and have the conversation anyways. She said she's having an IT issue, and that's the only reason she picked up the phone. She thought it was IT calling. Shoot. Dang nabbit. All right. Moving on. I do believe, that's going to be one of our last tips when it comes to the golden rules of cold calling. If you guys want to hear me go on and on about the golden rules of cold calling and learn more practical tips and tricks on how to do this, I do have an online course. You can go to my website, check it out. Newsflash, it has all of the basics that I talk about on here, which is structure, process, technology. That's how you nail cold calling. All right. That's how you nail cold calling. You have to have a structure and a process about how you go about it. And then you have to use technology. It's a must. Kixie is a go-to for that. Love that. Let's talk a little bit about some logistical tips, right? Use technology. You should put more time into building your lists, right? The list building process, I've worked with 45 plus different companies in my consulting practice. 45 companies. How many companies have most people worked with that aren't in consulting? You work for a handful in your career. But how many have you really been in the inner workings of the company and been on like direct connecting to the founders and the CEOs and the people that make all the decisions? The list building process is the number one most overlooked thing in outbound, period, full stop, right? You should put more time into building your lists so that your lists can actually be more targeted. Hey, this is Kevin with Uncommon. How you doing today? Oh, shoot. We're double tapping. Suzanne was there. Come on. Come on, Suzanne. Double tap, double tap, double tap. First thing I'm going to mention. Sent me to voicemail. Can you believe that? Sent me to voicemail on the double tap. All right. What was I saying? List building, right? So taking more time to build your list, like the big red flag for me that outbound is not going to work very well. Let me back up. So outbound will always work with time. The game we're playing is time. How efficient can we be over time, right? Which is a little bit of this, right? The time, and this would be outcomes. I know it's not two words, it's just writing it there that way, right? Outcomes over time. How do you do something that does this, right? How do you get a lot of outcomes in a short period of time? All you people listening that are Lean Six Sigma black belts totally get this. All my project management people out there that are listening, you probably get this. It's called efficiency. Efficiency is where you make the most time for the outcomes. You need to be efficient in what you're doing. People tend to think that they can just grab a large list and it's a law of numbers. I just need a lot of people on a list and therefore I can have a lot of conversations. Well, you have a lot of conversations. Hey, is this Noel? Hi, this is Kevin with Uncommon. How you doing today? I'm all right. I know I'm calling you a bit out of the blue here. Did I catch you with a quick minute? I can tell you exactly why I called. Awesome. So, Noel, I work with people leaders like yourself that are working to build a value-driven employee experience by enabling their staff to give back to nonprofits in their community. The question I have for you, what was that? Sweet. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess I should just check. Are you still over at my event? Ah, okay, cool. Yeah, I had you down in as someone who works in people operations. That's why I thought I'd call. So the question I have for you, Noel, would you say you're satisfied with how much of your staff participates in giving back initiatives when you guys do have those? Oh. Yeah. No, that's tough. Okay. That makes sense. Did you guys, so you mentioned you just started launching some workplace giving initiatives like very recently. Um, are you leveraging a technology platform for that or? Oh, okay. So you guys probably just did a whole process into the end of September here. Nice. Can I write down on my records what you chose? Like which platform you went with? Okay, cool. Yep, that makes sense. And I understand that the merger thing makes it really tough to do any changes or additions or anything like that. So, okay, awesome. Well, Noel, thanks for having the conversation with me. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Dang. Okay. All right. So finally, a good conversation, everybody. That was awesome. So Noelle works at this company, and I had a topic-driven conversation with her. My pitch brought up exactly a conversation about what I wanted to talk about, which is what their workplace is doing for giving back initiatives. And she told me that they just went through a giant RFP process, selected a vendor. They just went live with the vendor in October, selected in September, went live in October, and they entered into an agreement to merge with another company. Now, this is a bit of a business acumen thing, right? I understand that M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions, generally puts a giant freeze on changing of platform systems and processes, right? So when it comes to like hearing about M&A on a cold call, that's a really good signal that you're not going to find either of these, right? And what are these again? Business problems and valuable solutions. They're not looking for solutions because they've been told not to bring anything on. And the business problems are kind of put on hold because the business goes into this really deep, vetting process. And, they sit down with lawyers and they bring in consultants that sit there and line it all up and say, okay, so you have this platform, we have this platform. Here's how we're going to integrate. Here's how we're going to do this. Generally, if they find something in that process when they're looking at all this, they will go to the vendor. But a cold outbound meeting for someone in the middle of a merger is going to be low value for your account executive, right? It's a nurture opportunity. It's a connection, sure, but it's not a hot op. So therefore, I don't want to. It's not a conversation that's going to net into business in the next year. Like I can pretty much assure you on that. So bummer, but we are moving on in the dialer here. So when it comes to list building, Matthew had another question here. For a single user to search contacts. Yeah, there are a few that are like kind of cheap, quick LinkedIn plugin type things. Lucia is one. Lead IQ is another. Seamless.ai gives you a number of free credits for a while. There's a few different ways to do the lead process, right? And no free advertisements. We're not going to go through a list of all of them, but I'll tell you guys kind of basically that how it works is there's databases. Databases exist to have a big centralized place where all these leads live. What happens to databases? Well, they might have Kevin working at Vonage, Kevin working at CourseKey, Kevin working at MindTouch, all places where I did work, but the database doesn't refresh every record all the time. There's no way. There's millions and millions of people that can't keep up. So databases are going to be fairly inaccurate. It's just we know this, right? It's just part of the game. And they'll tell you they aren't, but when you do things like put them into a dialer on a live show, you tend to find out. So there's databases. Then there are smaller databases that are sort of databases, but what they really do is they do real-time research. Hey, I was looking for Zoe. Wow, that was weird. Double tap. Double tap. Come on. I know you're there, Zoe. I know you're there. Come on. Come on, people now. Hey, is this Zoe? Zoe, how's it going? Kevin here with Uncommon Giving. I know I'm calling unannounced. I apologize. I think we just had a little bit of phone trouble too. Did I catch you with a second to have a conversation? Oh, okay. Well, congrats on stepping away there. Are you riding off in the sunset, or is it retirement time? Are we gonna do all golfing and knitting? Yeah, I can imagine. Q4, right? Okay, I could do that. Z Heart Upwork. Okay, well, I totally get that. I'll send it right now. But if you could help me in just 30 seconds, when it comes to giving back, so I'm with a company called Uncommon Giving, and we have a structured platform that allows employers to enable their employees to give back in both time and money to the causes that they care about. So it's a little bit different spin on it. Do you guys have a program like that? Have you thought about programs like that? Okay, that's fair. Awesome. All right. Well, Zoe, I'll let you go. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers. Dang. She also just left her job. Like literally, she's leaving. Friday's her last day at the company that she works at. So, and what's important there, I guess the lesson to take from this call that I just had is even if someone's on their way out, if you have them on the phone, I know she worked there for a period of time. The database that I pulled this lead from has her working there, and she worked there for a while. She knows what's going on, right? Let's remember the golden rules. Be interested and interesting, right? I'm interested in what's going on at her company. So I just asked her, I said, tell me a little bit about what you guys do for charitable giving and giving back and all that stuff. And then she told me some really good information. She basically said that they have a giant budget freeze. They're cutting programs left and right. Doesn't sound like good times at that company if we're being real. So that was an important little learning lesson there. And we're back in the queue. Okay, so we talk about lists. There's giant databases which get kind of old and stuffy, and they're generally only done on the company level. So then there's the real-time research databases, which is more along the lines of what Matthew was asking about. These are ones that are like LinkedIn plugins, and they'll like do a quick search in their database to see. They don't have it all sitting there ready for you, but like if you say, hey, do you have a cell phone number for Kevin Hopp? They'll charge you a credit to get one cell phone number at a time, right? Which is cool little solution for little teams and like for individual people. Huge fan of doing that. There is a third way to do data, which if you have an organization that is trying to do this, which is get the most for your time. So here's what it normally looks like, guys. Here's what it normally looks like when you don't really have strong process, right? Here's what it normally looks like. Right? Takes forever to start getting results going outbound. And that's because you spend most of your time slogging through, Jason's no longer here. Stephanie, blah, blah, blah. Right? We're going back and forth and back and forth. And that is why that happens like that. I hope that makes sense. Cool. Work smarter, not harder. All right. Working smarter, not harder. What that means is use process and structure so that you're not having to call incorrect numbers all the time, right? So that you're not having to reach out to people that are no longer at the job. For someone like Zoe, who's leaving their job this week, impossible to get ahead of that, right? On LinkedIn, it still says she's active there. But work smarter, not harder. Meaning the answer is not you need to do 500 dials in a day. The answer is you need to put more time into building your lists and getting good data so that your time spent calling, which should be the most important thing you're doing, is actually having conversations, is super valuable. And stand up when you call. That's another logistical tip, right? So I'm standing. You can hear the pace, volume, and tone coming from me. And when you stand up when you call, you're actually going to project more, which is a big deal. Tactical tips, standing up, having a curious tone, right? So the curious tone is something that a lot of people kind of miss on, particularly if you are reading from a script. You're reading from a script, you're going to forget to like put the right question marks in the right places. And a lot of reps, I've trained a lot of reps that come from either other places other than SaaS, or they just come in and they say, hey, I want to be an SDR, I want to be in sales. And they look at the script and they go, yeah, I'm calling with Uncommon Giving and da 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 da. And that's the way that they go about the call. And their pace, volume, and tone is super flat the whole time. And if it's flat, you're not going to get anybody's attention, right? you're not going to get anybody leaning forward. No one's going to want to pay attention to that. So you really want to make sure that you have a curious tone, that you are putting inflections in the right places so that it sounds like you're just having a conversation. Even though you're reading your main value prop from a script, I still use a script. Guys, I'm a pro's pro. Obviously, I teach this stuff, but I still use a script. And the reason I use a script is I need that handrail to keep it straight, to make sure that I nail it. But when I read it, I'm reading it as if I'm talking it, right? There's a big difference between when you hear someone saying something, you could hear if they're reading it or if they're just saying it. And the best cold callers, the best salespeople can take things that are written and make them sound like they're just saying it. It comes from the heart, right? And one of the things about that is you have to embody the message. You have to understand the main goal. You have to understand the value proposition. If you deeply understand it, then you can put in words that aren't there and just let it flow, right? Flow is super important. Gotta flow. Pace, volume, tone, and energy matter a lot. Yeah, I was actually looking to speak with Shannon. Oh, shoot. Gatekeeper. Dang nabbit. Okay. I'm trying to get one more call here. One more call if I can before the end of our live. Yeah, interesting. Someone coming in here with Jeb Blount's rules for cold calling. Look, there's a lot of different ways to do it. We're probably more similar than we are dissimilar, me and Jeb Blount. But my structure in the golden rules of cold calling you can find by going to my website and check out the online course if you want to. And the last note here I do want to touch on, it's a numbers game. Don't get discouraged. Now, before you say it, I'm not saying the opposite of what I said in the last slide, right? So the last slide says, work smarter, not harder. Now, what I mean by it's a numbers game, don't get discouraged is the vast majority of people in your market are not actively looking for a solution, right? Let's talk about this as one of the last concepts we deal with today. Boom, right? The buyer's pyramid, something I've talked about on here before. I don't think that's there. Yeah. So the buyer's pyramid is something that a guy named Chet Holmes came out with, did a bunch of research on this, right? And in B2B mature markets, I'm talking about mature markets where people are buying things, right? If you have a startup that's like defining a new category, this rule doesn't really apply. I mean, it kind of does, kind of doesn't, but this is mostly for like more mature markets where product moves, people buy stuff. It happens all the time. In your market, only 3% of people at the very, very tippity top are actively looking for a solution and have the problems, looking for a solution, bang, right? These are the ones that we all freaking love, right? As outbound sales pros, we love these. Who else gets these? Marketing. If you do good marketing, you're going to get that. You're also going to get some of this, right? Really good marketing can maybe get all the way down to here. Now, what are these? So there's the idea that a certain small percentage of your market is always looking for what you do, and they're always have the problem. They have the problem, and they're looking for a solution. Bang, that's the best meeting. And you say to yourself, why can't every cold call be like that? That was amazing. Well, it's just not like that, right? I don't know what to say besides the world don't work that way, right? So good marketing can get to the people that have the problems but are not looking for solutions. Those are really good people to have conversations with. And people that are looking for solutions but might not have the exact problems, right? So if you go deeper on this pyramid of your market, you start to find out that most of what you're doing is trying to find the people that even qualify here. But the vast majority of people don't have the problem and therefore are not looking for the solution. They don't have a business problem or looking for a valuable solution. You shouldn't set a meeting with them. It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for them, right? So it's a numbers game means you have to have a lot of conversations with people to find people that are potentially in the market, people that are in the market, people could be in the market, and people that you can convince to be in the market, people that don't understand their problem, right? That's your job as a sales pro, is to go have all these conversations, but you're going to run into these people, and don't get discouraged by that. Don't get discouraged by the fact that you're going to run into people that are like, never in a million years. That's not the way I do it. I'm different. You don't understand, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? That happens a lot. Guys, that's all we have time for here today. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday, and check out the podcast for the best moments from today's show and every other show. Next week is our special Thanksgiving. I'm going to be wearing an even more ridiculous Thanksgiving shirt. Check it out next week. It's going to be rad. Ryan Parrish from Superhuman Prospecting is going to be here. Looking forward to it. Have a great rest of your